All right, so today's video starts with a quote from the Internet Complaint Department that says, "The less we pay you, the less you believe it." When I imported that into ChatGPT, it gave me the title, Underpaid on Purpose. Have you ever sat at a job that you didn't like and wondered, why do I have to be paid so little money? For the first few months when I worked at Walmart, that was my only thought process. How did I end up here? Why can't I leave? What happened? What was all the education I spent half my life getting worth if I was stocking shelves? And worse off, I was stocking shelves of things I couldn't afford to eat myself. And that is the heinous crime of having the lowest paid workers working in food. Working in food is a perfect analogy for people that have failed at life. They have the lowest records of being able to support themselves long term. If you work in food, chances are you'll never be married. You'll never own a home and you will never get ahead in life because they pay you nothing on purpose because they don't see any value in you. They don't want to invest in you. You're a short term, disposable employee. But remember, you're also essential. So you had to work even when you knew you didn't want to work. They weren't going to give you remote work as a food worker. And if you happen to be sacrificed, well, that's the nature of human society. There are the haves, there are the have nots, and then there are the disposable. So let's get into today's monologue. You ever notice how every job that pays you crumbs somehow expects you to give them your whole soul? Like, I'm making $14 an hour, not curing diseases. At this wage, you're lucky I even show up with a pulse. And the wildest part, they underpay us on purpose because a tired, broken worker has way less energy to question why everything feels like a scam. This was something that my manager at Walmart absolutely despised about me. When I would ask him why we had to do things in a certain way, why procedure was so backwards and stupid, he would just look at me and say, "Why are you questioning the system?" And I'm like, "Because it's broken." And he's like, "No, it's not. Walmart is the largest retail in the world. Obviously, they're doing something right. Yes, they're breaking all of their workers. When you're the largest employer in the state of Arizona and you pay the minimum wage, obviously something has broken here. Because if anyone can afford to pay living wages, it's a giant retailer. But no, they insist that they don't have it. And back then, it was a fight for the $15 minimum wage, which looking back at it now is an absolute joke. Even back then, $15 an hour wasn't buying you anything. Remember, you will earn nothing, you will own nothing, and you will be happy. And that was the subject of my video that I made when I got home from work yesterday. I just didn't have the energy to post it. So at some point in the next week, you guys are going to see that video. And it is me really beaten down to the point where you get home and you just want to crawl into the fetal position, crawl under your desk, and never come out again. That's how bad you feel when you get home from an evil job. It's taken everything from you. You get home, you don't want to do anything. You don't want to live your own life. You don't want to do anything after work other than stop and wonder what happened to you. To me, work is a traumatic event every single day. And you know why that is, right? Because yesterday, Mello was I don't know how she ended up right behind me. I was driving to work, and she knows where I work, so I was turning off to go to my to work at McDonald's, and she said she was right behind me, and she said the reason she knew it was my car is because she saw the sticker on the gas tank. So yeah, she was literally right behind me. In a proly world, we all have to go to work, right? And there's only so many ways of getting to work. And so we've been passing each other on the street right in front of me for 2 decades. Every day Two proles passed each other on their way to their proley jobs, whether I was working at Kroger's, Walmart, the call center, the warehouse, the fast food restaurant. We've been passing each other, going to our proley jobs. And that's the amazing thing, is even though I'd been passing her for this many decades, our paths never really came together. After I stopped going into her proley retail job because I moved away or she got a job in a different part of the store, we just stopped seeing each other. And that's the way that things are for us right now. We don't talk to each other anymore. We barely glance at each other. When I walk into the gym, there may be 100 people there, but all I see is myself and the machine in front of me. In fact, often I will look back and look to see who's in the room because it's the only time that I get to see people. On an average day, I don't have a real conversation. I sit and I look at the computer screen. I scratch my head, I scratch my rear, and I think to myself, this is it. This is life at at the fullest. And then 5 o'clock rolls around and you just pretend like nothing happened. You block it all out. You block out all the trauma. You block out the 3 visits you got from Fleece. You block out assuming the position and knowing full well that Fleece will be ready in the morning because Fleece never gets tired. Fleece eats moody. And the proletariat, that's all they are. They're just one giant moody for the system. And the system loves Pound Town. It can't wait. On Friday afternoon, when he shoots you a kiss across the room, he knows. He gives you the thumbs up and says, we'll see you at 8. You know the position I like. And that's all of America's workers. They know the position you don't like. You don't like to be in a position where you're going to open up your paycheck tomorrow and look at a McPaycheck that's so small. You wonder if this is even legally. You kind of flick it and wonder if it's still alive. You hold it up by the end and you look at it and you wave it in the air. And while you're waving your McPaycheck in the air, it vanishes. Boom, gone. And then you look around at what you have. Nothing. But remember, you have to look happy. In fact, there was an article yesterday on the cover of CNN where Target is telling its workers, you will smile. They are losing so much money this year because people don't have it. They're forcing their workers to bring up the, I'm enjoying myself while working at Target. I'm enjoying myself while I'm being underpaid on purpose is what they're telling their workers. And all companies want you to show up like this. Show up full of motivation for the minimum wage. And people can't do it. You can't fake the funk. You can't squeeze that lemon any harder. Because the, how does that phrase go? It's not the, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I'm going to have to look this up. The squeeze ain't worth the, gosh, this is so embarrassing. The, oh my God, I can't. Okay. It says, is it worth the squeeze? A question asking if the effort, cost, or risk of a situation is justified by the potential reward. The squeeze represents the effort, the juice represents the reward, and the question is practically to ask, is the reward worth it? Is going to your minimum wage job worth it? In a career, it's deciding whether the effort to pursue a promotion or a new job that requires a lot of extra work. So, um, it's just a phrase. God, I wish I knew exactly what. Is the squeeze worth the juice? The juice is worth the squeeze? No, it's not. Now, I don't understand why I always think of that because I think of some corporate entity, right? You're working at the Death Star, you're busting your hump, you're afraid you're going to get sucked into one of those many machines that's lingering around with your name on it. And you wonder, how do they justify the squeeze in order to get the most minimal amount of work out of a person who's being underpaid on purpose? But they're willing to squeeze the proletariat by the millions. And you know where they squeeze you. I don't have to tell you. It's a very sensitive place of the body. But that's where they go to get the squeeze to see if the juice is worth it. And even though they may get a tiny bit of unmotivated, unfocused labor, it's enough to keep that system rolling. So every morning, you know what's going to happen. The squeeze and the pound. At Pound Town, Pound Town could be replaced by the juicer. That could be the title over every office building in America, the juicer, where the squeeze is worth the juice. And you are coming there to make certain that you sell every part of your soul, because they're not just squeezing your body, they're squeezing your soul. And as you slowly go insane from trying to figure out how you're going to survive with whatever's left, whatever scraps are left at 5 o'clock of your body and mind, you wonder why there's a mental crisis in America. All right, let's go into talking point number one. The economy doesn't break you all at once. It takes tiny bites out of you until one day you're out of toothpaste, out of hope, and Googling how long can a person live off ramen and spite. Poverty isn't a crisis, it's a slow leak no one checks. It's absolutely true. Everyone knows it's there. I'm going to drive to work in an hour and I'm going to pass 50, at least 50 people who are living on the side of the road, and many of them long term. Lately, as I've been driving home from work, I've been seeing more and more clean homeless people, meaning that they're wearing suitcases, newer suitcases. They don't look as disheveled. But every week, we are getting an increase in the population of the homeless. Because every week, these landlords are pushing people onto the street, and these people have nowhere to go. So what do? Imagine yourself. Let's say today, for some reason, everything hit the you know what, and suddenly you have to throw away all your stuff. You don't have a car because it's already been repossessed, because if you weren't paying your rent, you weren't paying your car. You're making your car payment. So your car's gone. Now your house is gone. You got to put whatever you can on your back, and everything else in your house you're going to leave behind or try to throw it away, because you're not going to be able to sell it. Most of our junk isn't worth anything to us, let alone a person who's trying to get a deal from you. So they might give you $20 for your TV and then laugh at the fact that you had to sell it to them, or in a sense, give it away. But now you're on the street. What do? You walk over to the closest wall and you sit down until a police officer comes and tells you that it's illegal to be homeless in the city of Tempe. That's what happens to you. And that's the way life is. It's cruel. After you get squeezed by corporate America isn't done with you. You are not a person once you don't have employment anymore. Once you can't contribute to the system, once you can't be exploited to the nth degree, once the man can't squeeze you because you have nothing left, once you fail miserably at life, society doesn't value you. Because if it valued people, we wouldn't have homeless people. We wouldn't have hunger. We'd have affordable housing, universal health care, and a universal basic income. And a human right to food and shelter. That's just a basic human right. But they can't do that, because what the corporations extract from you is everything every week. And if for some reason you didn't need to have a job that's directly tied to healthcare, then the healthcare system wouldn't function, because at that point we would need a universal health system, because employment shouldn't be tied to healthcare. That's cruel. It's barbaric, and it's antiquated to the nth degree. But there's too much money. America, the only first world country in the world that doesn't have universal basic income. And for one reason alone: greed. That's it. That's what it comes down to. When you look around at everything that's wrong in your society, it's one reason every single time: greed. Talking point number two: every paycheck feels like a breakup text, dry, disappointing, and somehow my fault. It's true. Every week, when you collect your measly paycheck, you look at it, and your boss will tell you, this is all I can afford. And if you were to say that same thing to him, if you were to cut his paycheck to the size of your paycheck and you used the same excuse, this is all that I can afford, what's going to happen? They're going to leave. No one is going to stay around for a bite-sized paycheck that can't afford life. And people in the comments are probably going to be, why don't you just get a better job? Are you really going to say that to someone who's serving up food in a cafeteria right now, wearing a hairnet and an ice cream scoop, serving up canned pasta to kids? Get a better job? Do you think anyone takes those jobs because they have to? Do you think anyone in America who's underemployed right now takes that job because they want to? They take it because of the simple reason that we've established a system of desperation in this country where someone with 3 to 5 years of experience with lots of education is still getting paid $16 an hour. And the worst part is when you walk into that interview, they know what they're doing. They're on purpose underpaying you with the understanding between you that your situation you're in dire need for financial assistance. And that's what a job is. It's not financial compensation, it's financial assistance. Because if it was actual compensation, we wouldn't need things like food stamps. We wouldn't need government sponsored programs to pay for childcare or any sort of resource. Everything would be possible just by us working. But by purposely underpaying us, they create a system of dependency of the proletariat. People tell me in my comment section all the time, well, why don't we just stop the corporations? Because without them, we don't eat. Everything in this country revolves around corporations that make themselves monopolies. And that's just the way it is. There's always so much talk around the political circus where politicians come out and they say, oh, we got to protect small business. They're always saying small business, but look around. When was the last time you did business with a small business that was any amount of significance? Everything that I pay for, my car, the apartment, food, gas, it's all giant corporations that set prices at a certain rate. Even every corporation acknowledges the fact that they don't want to compete with each other for workers, so everyone pays the same thing. And therefore, you have an entire economy that is completely dependent on an entity that's only purpose for existing is to extract wealth from people. That's the only reason it exists. Because if it doesn't have record profits, why exist? Why exist as a business on the verge of not being a successful business? Across America, we are going to see thousands of businesses go under, and there are going to be big names and mainly food places because it's not sustainable to keep a Subway, a Taco Bell, a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Jack in the Box. None of these places at those prices are sustainable. Not when you're paying people so little and the prices have been jacked up so high that you priced out your own customers. And that's what America has done. It's priced out its own customers in housing, transportation, and food. And now they're wondering why things are this way. You won't pay people, and therefore people are failing. Oh, it must be their fault. All right, let's get into my closing monologue because I have gone off on way too many tangents in this one. So here's the truth they hope you never figure out. You're not underpaid because you're unskilled. You're underpaid because underpaying you keeps the whole machine running. If you ever had enough money to rest, to breathe, to think, you might actually realize how much you're being robbed. That's why every paycheck feels like a joke with your name on it. So before you click away, sit with this one question. How much of your life have you already given away for a wage that can't even afford your life? That is a great question, ChatGPT. How much of you have you given away? How much of your life feels like you will own nothing and be happy? Because I feel it every day. I feel it right now as I sit here looking at my empty ramen bowl. Today I'm starting my day with 50 cents worth of dirt, noodles, and crap. And not because I want to. I'd rather be eating a steak with caviar, but that's just not going to happen with the money that I make. So, with that said, I hope you guys enjoy your day. Tell Fleece I said hello and that our appointment at 10 still stands. And I will try to find something to make it hurt less. But, if it doesn't hurt, then Fleece isn't happy. So, assume the position, proletariat. It's time to get to work.